Why the universe sends you someone you can't be with. Some people come into our lives as blessings. Some come as lessons. Mother Teresa. Have you ever met someone who felt like home, only to realize you could never stay? In today's video, Why the Universe Sends You, Someone You Can't Be with Carl Jung. Spiritual wisdom will explore the deeper meaning behind these sacred, soul-shaking connections. This isn't just about heartbreak, it's about spiritual growth, karmic purpose, and the mysterious timing of the universe. As you listen, ask yourself, what was my soul meant to learn through the one who couldn't stay? Comment below with your thoughts or share your own story. Your wisdom might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. 1. Fated encounters that don't last. Sometimes, the universe brings someone into your life who feels like a missing piece of your soul, only to take them away. It's not punishment, nor a mistake. It's a divine orchestration rooted in timing, circumstance, and a deeper spiritual design. What you feel is not just heartbreak. It's a sacred rupture, a haunting ache that doesn't simply break your heart, it tears at your sense of self, your timeline, your very idea of what love is supposed to be. Because this isn't ordinary pain. This is the kind of loss that feels ancestral. Like your soul has known this person long before your body ever did. You don't just grieve their absence, you grieve what could have been. The life you almost had, the moments you almost shared. There's an echo that follows you, not because they're gone, but because they awakened a part of you that had been asleep. In the language of spiritual wisdom, they were never meant to stay. They were sent to activate you, to shake the dust off your soul and remind you who you really are beneath all the numbness, fear, and pretending. These people are not meant to complete you. They're meant to crack you open. They arrive like a mirror, reflecting back your hidden truths, your suppressed longings, the places you've abandoned within yourself. And when they leave, what they leave behind is not emptiness, it's a fire. A burning that pushes you into your own becoming. Carl Jung once said that we don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. These soul-shaking encounters do exactly that. They force you to confront everything you've buried. You may try to forget them. You may try to move on. But part of you knows they weren't just a person. They were a turning point, a soul contract, a sacred mirror. And though your paths may never cross again, their impact lives on in your healing, your depth, your transformation. They are woven into the tapestry of who you're becoming. This is the paradox of love written in spiritual language. It doesn't always end in forever. Sometimes it ends in awakening. Have you ever experienced a connection so deep it felt written in the stars, only to watch it slip away? If so, share your story in the comments so others can find comfort and healing in your words. If not, comment, "I believe in divine timing," to affirm your trust in the universe's plan. Let's walk this spiritual journey together. 2. Their purpose was to awaken you, not to stay. They were never meant to stay. They came to awaken something in you, something ancient, buried beneath years of survival, silence, and self-forgetting. They were not soulmates, but mirrors. Not destiny fulfilled, but destiny initiated. Their presence shook your world because it echoed a version of you that had long been sleeping. You didn't fall in love with them as much as you fell into remembrance of who you were before you became guarded, before you built walls around your softness, before you stopped believing you deserved to be seen. Carl Jung once said, People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And yet, these brief, powerful connections make avoidance impossible. Their eyes held up a mirror to your soul. Their words cut through your logic and touched your longing. They awakened your ache not because they were the answer, but because they helped you finally ask the right questions. You didn't need them to complete you. You needed them to reveal what still remained incomplete within you. That is the essence of spiritual awakening, not comfort, but confrontation. Not certainty, but truth. They stirred your spirit in a way that logic couldn't explain. Their timing was imperfect, their exit inevitable, but their impact undeniable. You can still feel their absence in the silence. You still replay what they said or didn't say. And yet, if you listen closely, you'll realize their purpose was never to fill the void. It was to show you the void, to point toward the parts of yourself that still needed attention, healing, and love. They were the spark, not the flame, the door, not the home. The universe doesn't always gift us lifelong companions. Sometimes it gifts us soul shakers, disruptors, sacred intruders. These are the ones who pull back the curtain and say, "Look at who you've forgotten to become." And then they vanish. Not as punishment, but as permission for you to begin again, to step forward without them, to reclaim the story they briefly entered. Spiritual awakening is not a gentle path. It is not always peaceful or poetic. Sometimes it is raw. Sometimes it is triggered by the one who never loved you back, or by the one who did but couldn't stay. It arrives in the form of people who crack your heart open just enough for light to pour through. And when they leave, you are left with a choice: close the wound or let it grow wings. You may never fully understand why they came or why they had to go. But one day, when you're further along your path, you'll look back and know they were never the destination. They were the awakening, the ones who touched your soul just long enough to remind you you have one. Do you feel someone was sent to awaken you? If so, claim your truth in the comments. They awakened me, and I remember who I am. 3. Jung's insight. Sacred interruption. Carl Jung once observed that the universe doesn't send people into your life by accident. He believed these soul-shaking encounters arise from the unconscious, not from chance. They are messengers from the depths of your being, sent not to comfort you, but to awaken something long dormant within. When you meet someone you can't be with, yet feel an unexplainable connection to it, isn't punishment. It's a sacred interruption designed to illuminate what your soul is truly yearning for. Sometimes, a person enters your life and suddenly, everything you thought you had buried resurfaces. You feel alive again, seen in ways you didn't know you needed. This kind of encounter doesn't soothe your life, it disrupts it. You feel drawn to them as if you've known them for lifetimes. Yet, despite the magnetic pull, life circumstances, distance, timing, obligations make it impossible to stay together. You might ache, cry, and wonder why the universe would allow something so beautiful only to take it away. But as Carl Jung taught, what feels like heartbreak is often initiation. This connection is not about possession, it's about revelation. In everyday life, these moments appear quietly but powerfully. A man stuck in routine meets a woman who radiates everything he suppressed: freedom, artistry, emotional depth. The attraction isn't just romantic, it's existential. She reflects back to him a life unlived, but she's on her own path, and he can't follow. after she's gone, he finds himself forever altered. Not because he had her, but because he saw himself more clearly through her. According to Jung, these encounters are part of individuation, the psychological process of becoming whole. That person you couldn't keep was never meant to complete your story. They were sent to awaken your missing chapters. They were the mirror to your unloved self, the emotional frequency your soul was craving. And because of their impact, you are now forced to reckon with your inner truth. Their absence becomes a spiritual catalyst, pushing you to return to your authentic self. The tragedy is not that they left. The real tragedy would be missing the deeper message they carried. These kinds of connections are designed to activate your growth, not guarantee comfort. Jung emphasized that the soul communicates through symbols, dreams, and people who trigger the unconscious. So when someone enters your life and pulls your entire emotional landscape to the surface, pay attention. They are the symbol. They are the message. You were not abandoned. You were summoned to evolve, to remember, to reclaim. These people are not here to stay forever. They are here to remind you of what you've been living without. The love, the longing, the pain, it's all part of the same spiritual awakening. And in the end, it's not about the other person. It's about what they woke up in you. Their presence was a question. Your healing is the answer. If this insight resonated with you, give it a like, subscribe for more Carl Jung-inspired wisdom, and share in the comments. What sacred interruption has transformed your life? Let's keep exploring these deeper truths together. 4. Doorways, not destinations. Some people enter your life not to stay, but to stir your soul in ways that no peaceful journey ever could. Their role is not to complete you, but to break you open. They arrive with intensity, familiarity, and a strange kind of spiritual heat that doesn't feel safe, but feels true. These are not lifelong partners. They are catalyst doorways, not destinations. Their love doesn't build a home with you. Instead, it burns the walls you've built within yourself. When you meet someone you can't keep, but can't forget, it's not by mistake. These encounters often reopen ancient wounds you thought you had already healed, traumas you thought were buried. They mirror your deepest fears and your rawest desires. They don't offer comfort, they ignite transformation. You start asking questions. Why does this hurt so much? Why do I feel like I've known them forever? Why do I crave their presence, even though I know they're not mine to keep? Carl Jung called this the awakening of the unconscious. These people tap into your psyche, pulling out the shadows and forgotten stories that drive your behavior. They don't heal you, but they reveal what needs healing. They force you to confront your projections, your longing for completion, your dependency on being seen to feel real. The pain you feel isn't just heartbreak, it's spiritual rupture. It's the universe placing a mirror in front of your soul and whispering, "Look." There is something haunting about being seen so deeply by someone who doesn't stay. Yet that very absence becomes the lesson. The ache teaches you to stop chasing wholeness in another and start claiming it within yourself. The silence after they leave becomes a sacred space where you grieve, reflect, and eventually grow. This is not loss. This is initiation. This is where spiritual wisdom takes root, not in the comfort of togetherness, but in the fire of awakening. The beauty of these connections lies in their impermanence. If they stayed, you might never awaken. If they stayed, you might remain asleep in illusion. But because they left, you were forced to find yourself. You began the slow process of integration, seeing the parts of yourself you gave away, the needs you masked as love, the emptiness you tried to fill through another's gaze. Their presence opened a door. Their absence taught you how to walk through it. And even though your paths diverged, something eternal remains. Not the relationship, but the revelation. Not the person, but the purpose they unlocked in you. You begin to realize that this wasn't a love story. It was a soul story. And it wasn't meant to last. It was meant to transform. That is the deeper truth. Some people are not your home. They are the earthquake that breaks your foundation so you can rebuild something truer. They are the storm that cracks open the sky so you can finally see the stars. And through them, you don't just learn about love, you learn about yourself. That is the path of spiritual wisdom. Not to keep what wakes you, but to let it awaken you fully. Comment below. I am walking through the doorway of growth. If you're ready to evolve beyond who you used to be. 5. You fell for how you felt in their presence. You didn't fall in love with just them. You fell for the version of yourself that came alive in their presence. Around them, you were softer, more open, more vibrant. It wasn't only their touch or their words that drew you in, but the feeling of being seen, felt, and remembered, as if something buried deep within you had been stirred awake. You came alive in a way you hadn't in years, maybe ever. They didn't just capture your heart, they illuminated it. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." That's what it was, a transformation, not a relationship. They awakened something sacred in you, not because they completed you, but because their presence gave your forgotten parts permission to breathe again. They mirrored back the light you had dimmed to survive, the laugh that had become rare, the ease that had turned into effort, the softness that the world told you to harden. What makes this connection hard to release is that it was never just about them. It was about how you felt with them. Safe, seen, whole. That's the part your soul keeps replaying, not their voice, but your voice when you spoke freely. Not their smile, but your glow when you were around them. You were, for a moment, aligned with your truest self. And even if they left, that alignment wasn't false. It was your spirit waking up to itself. This is the heart of a spiritual awakening. It doesn't always come in meditation or stillness. Sometimes it arrives through heartbreak, through the ache of loving someone you cannot keep. It comes when the universe uses another soul to reintroduce you to yourself. That person was not meant to stay. They were meant to ignite. And now, the flame is yours to tend. So don't grieve as if everything is lost. You didn't lose yourself. You found yourself through them. They were a mirror, not a home, a catalyst, not a destination. What they drew out of you was real, and it belongs to you now. You don't need them to keep feeling alive. That version of you exists still, waiting to be chosen again, not by them, but by you. As Rumi once said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Let the wound remain open, just long enough for the light to get in. Let the heartbreak be a doorway, not a dead end. Let the loss guide you deeper into your own becoming. Because the truth is, the universe didn't send them to complete you. It sent them to awaken you. If this message speaks to your soul, repeat after me. I honor how I felt in their presence. It revealed the parts of me I'm ready to reclaim. Let this be your reminder that what awakened in you was never about them. It was always about you. 6. The ache is a spiritual invitation. The ache is not just about losing them, it's about losing a part of yourself that only existed in their presence. That version of you, so alive, so open, was not a fantasy. It was real. But it surfaced only in the mirror of that connection. And now that they're gone, what hurts most is not just their absence. It's the fear that you may never feel that version of yourself again. But what if the ache wasn't a sign of weakness, but a sacred invitation? A spiritual initiation into something deeper. Carl Jung believed that every encounter has meaning, especially the ones that wound us the most. There is no coming to consciousness without pain, he wrote. When the universe sends someone you can't keep, it's not cruelty, it's alchemy. That connection came to show you something buried deep within you. What you saw in them, the love you felt, the courage you gained, it was all you. They simply reflected it back. And now, in their absence, you are being asked to carry that mirror yourself, to hold that reflection, even when they're no longer there to offer it. This is what spiritual wisdom teaches us. The pain of separation is often the beginning of self-reclamation. Not everyone is meant to stay, but everyone arrives with purpose. Think of a woman who, for a brief time, met someone who awakened her softness. He made her laugh, made her feel seen, but life circumstances pulled them apart. At first, she grieved the connection, but soon she realized it wasn't just about him, it was about the woman she became around him. He unlocked a light she had hidden. That light is still hers. He was only the key. The real transformation is what she does with that opening. Carl Jung taught that relationships, especially the impossible ones, are mirrors of the unconscious. What we project onto others often reveals what is asleep within us. So when you can't stop thinking about someone you lost, ask yourself, what did they awaken in me? What did I feel in their presence that I've denied myself? That ache is not a wound to be numbed. It is a path to follow. It is your soul's way of saying, you are ready for more. The universe doesn't play games with your heart. If someone entered your life and stirred something sacred, it was never meaningless. But they were not meant to complete you. They were sent to initiate you, to activate something ancient in your spirit. Their departure doesn't diminish that purpose. In fact, their absence is the invitation to embody what they merely mirrored. You are not here to depend on someone else to awaken you. You are here to remember who you are without needing them to hold the mirror. The ache is your teacher. It whispers, you were never missing them. You were missing yourself. And now that you've seen who you can become, it's time to become it, not because they stayed, but because you are ready to rise. If this message spoke to your soul, don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how pain, grief, and longing can become powerful gateways to transformation. 7. Integration is the real journey. Healing isn't about closure. It's not about wiping the slate clean or pretending the past didn't happen. Healing is about integration, taking what once shattered you and allowing it to become part of your strength, your story, your soul. When the universe sends you someone you can't be with, it's rarely a mistake. It's often a mirror. That person doesn't arrive to complete you, but to awaken what was dormant, to bring forward the parts of you still waiting to be claimed. Their purpose isn't permanence, it's ignition. You begin to see that boundaries are no longer barriers built out of fear, but sacred lines drawn from self-respect. They no longer keep love out. They preserve the kind of love that doesn't demand you lose yourself to keep someone else. And silence, what once felt like punishment, becomes sanctuary. The stillness they left behind becomes the space where you finally meet yourself. Not the self molded by expectations, but the raw, uncovered essence that's been waiting beneath the noise. Spiritual wisdom teaches that not all silence is empty. Some silences are full of truth. Grief doesn't fade. It evolves. It becomes fuel, not just for tears, but for transformation. In grief, you touch a depth you didn't know existed, and from that depth, your creativity flows not as escape, but as expression. You find yourself moved to create, not to forget the pain, but to honor it, to give it form, meaning, breath. This is where healing becomes art, where sorrow no longer weakens you, but sharpens your awareness, your purpose, your fire. The universe doesn't send these soul-stirring connections to wound us, but to reveal us. We ache for the person, but we're really aching for the part of ourselves they reflected. The love you thought you lost, it wasn't meant to stay in them. It was meant to be awakened in you. Because the deeper truth is this: spiritual wisdom is not about getting what your ego wants. It's about remembering what your soul needs. And sometimes, the soul needs a heartbreak so sacred, it cracks the shell you were never meant to live inside forever. This kind of love doesn't break you. It breaks you open. It teaches you presence. It strips you of illusions. It guides you back to the version of yourself that is no longer waiting to be chosen, but finally choosing yourself. Integration isn't forgetting. It's carrying the memory like a torch, not a wound. It's realizing that even though they couldn't stay, what they awakened in you still lives, and that is more than enough. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a comment of truth. I honor my healing. I carry my story as wisdom, not a wound. 8. You were initiated, not abandoned. This connection wasn't a failure. It was an initiation. Not all love stories are meant to last, but some are meant to awaken. The person you couldn't keep was never here to stay. They were here to stir your soul, to ignite something inside you that had been dormant for far too long. And even though it may feel like abandonment, it was actually your soul's way of evolving through sacred disruption. You're not supposed to simply get over them. That narrative is far too shallow for what actually happened. What you experienced wasn't ordinary heartbreak. It was a spiritual awakening disguised as loss. They came into your life to mirror back to you your capacity for depth, vulnerability, and presence. What you felt with them wasn't an illusion. It was a reflection of your own spiritual depth waiting to be remembered. Carl Jung once said that every transformation demands the death of the former self. That's what this person catalyzed within you, the end of who you were and the painful, beautiful birth of who you're becoming. They didn't leave you empty. They left you cracked open, and through those cracks, the light of your own consciousness is now seeping in. The universe often sends us people we can't keep when it's time to shift our inner landscape. These soul encounters are not about romantic permanence, but about energetic alignment. You were shown a glimpse of your higher self through the presence of another, and now the real work begins integrating that vision into your own life. The ache isn't just about missing them. It's about missing the version of you they brought to life. That's why this isn't just grief. It's sacred grief. It's the grief of remembering something timeless, something bigger than both of you. You were touched by a moment that reminded you of who you truly are. And now, even in their absence, that memory continues to transform you. You're not lost. You're becoming. When you carry forward the wisdom instead of the wound, you reclaim your power. You stop waiting for someone else to validate what you already felt, that you are capable of deep, soul-stirring love. And that capacity doesn't die with the connection. It evolves with you. So if your heart still aches, let it. That ache is sacred. Let it be the sound of your soul, stretching into something larger, something more whole. The person you couldn't keep didn't come to stay. They came to awaken. And you, my dear, are awakening. Stay connected by subscribing to our channel, where we explore the sacred journeys that shape us. This wasn't abandonment, it was initiation. You are not broken, you are becoming. And what you carry forward is holy. Let's walk this path of transformation together. 9. The awakening was the point. They didn't come to complete you. They came to interrupt you, to disrupt the narrative you thought you were writing, and awaken something far more powerful within. The purpose of their presence wasn't to promise forever, but to activate your spiritual evolution. As Carl Jung once said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that's exactly what they did. They stirred the unconscious. They brought to the surface the very parts of you that needed to be seen, healed, and reclaimed. Their absence is not the tragedy. The tragedy would be if you remained asleep after they left. Their departure is not a rejection. It's a redirection. It's the moment the universe placed the pen back in your hand and asked, "Will you write yourself back into your own story?" You don't need closure from them. Closure is an illusion we chase when we fear taking authorship of our own healing. You don't need their permission to begin again. You are the one you've been waiting for. You are not broken. You are in process. You are not lost. You are unfolding. This is the kind of ache that rewrites the entire structure of your being. It cracks open the inner world you built on dependency and shows you the foundation beneath your self-worth, your voice, your essence. In the quiet after they're gone, you hear yourself more clearly. And in that silence, the soul begins to speak. What you thought was abandonment was really initiation. The relationship wasn't a failure, it was a sacred invitation, a doorway to your own spiritual awakening. Think of it like this. Maybe the person who changed your life wasn't meant to stay. Maybe their only role was to wake you up. You met them in a season when you were asleep to your own power. And when they left, they took the illusion with them. Suddenly, you had to become the person you projected onto them, the one who inspires, who creates, who feels deeply, who stands tall in truth. Carl Jung taught that we often fall for others, not because of who they are, but because of the parts of ourselves they reflect back to us. They weren't your missing piece. They were the mirror showing you that you were never missing anything to begin with. The discomfort you feel now is not a void, it's spaciousness. It's the clearing needed for your real self to emerge. Don't rush to fill it. Don't distract yourself from it. Let it teach you. Let it grow on you. Because the greatest love story is not the one where someone saves you. It's the one where you return to yourself. The real journey begins not when you are chosen, but when you choose yourself. Not when someone sees you, but when you finally see you. And when that happens, you'll understand. Their role in your life was never to stay. It was to awaken the part of you that was always meant to rise. To affirm your awakening and reclaim your power, comment below. I rise as the main character of my life. Your journey isn't about closure, it's about becoming. Let your words inspire others to step fully into their unfolding. Some connections are not meant to last, but to awaken. They arrive not to complete our story, but to help us begin writing a new one from a deeper place within. If this message spoke to your soul, take a moment to reflect on what it stirred in you. If you found value in today's video, please like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. And don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming insights on love, soul journeys, and spiritual growth. Until next time, honor the lessons no matter how brief the encounter. Carl Jung. When your aura is too strong, you become the mirror no one wants to face. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darkness of other people. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like just being you makes others uncomfortable, even when you say nothing at all? That's not a flaw. It's a reflection. In this video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll explore why your aura might be so powerful that it acts as a mirror, revealing what others are trying to avoid within themselves. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious speaks louder than words, and when your energy is strong, it confronts people with their own hidden truths. As you listen, ask yourself, have you ever been misunderstood simply because you couldn't dim your light? Share your story in the comments. Your truth might just help someone else embrace theirs. 1. Carl Jung and the power of unconscious projection. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious isn't a passive force. It's a mirror that reflects what we refuse to see in ourselves. When people carry unresolved wounds, unhealed pain, or denied emotions, they unconsciously project those inner conflicts onto others. This is why someone who has cultivated deep presence, healing, and spiritual wisdom often becomes a walking trigger. Their energy doesn't just fill a room, it exposes what others have buried. When your aura is strong, grounded, and authentic, it threatens the illusions others live within. They don't see your light as inspiration. They experience it as confrontation. Your calm energy disturbs their chaos. Your quiet self-assurance unsettles their insecurities. Without speaking a word, your aura becomes a silent challenge to their denial. And that's when you stop being just a person in their eyes. You become a mirror they never asked to face. You'll notice it in the way people react. The silence when you walk in. The sudden discomfort. The passive aggression. Or the subtle withdrawal. It's not because you did anything wrong. It's because your presence makes what they're hiding feel impossible to ignore. And in those moments, spiritual wisdom calls you to remember. Don't shrink to ease someone else's avoidance. Don't dim just because your light is too bright for those still living in shadow. This is the path of awakening that Jung spoke of. The turning inward, the embracing of your truth, the integration of your shadow. He wrote, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. And when you've looked inside long enough, your aura begins to speak a language of its own. It speaks of resilience, of clarity, of a frequency that no longer entertains illusion. It vibrates with the power of someone who has seen darkness and chosen to embody light. There will be those who misunderstand this energy. who call you intimidating, too intense, too much. But that's only because they can't see clearly through their projections. The truth is, your presence is a gift, a living, breathing invitation for others to awaken if they're ready. And if they're not, that's not your burden to carry. Because those who are ready will feel your energy not as a threat, but as a homecoming. They'll recognize in you something ancient, something pure, something real. They won't flinch when they see their reflection in your presence. They'll lean in, they'll stay. And in that space, transformation begins. So let the energy speak, let the aura guide, and let your spiritual wisdom become the quiet revolution that awakens others not by force, but by simply being what they didn't know they were longing to remember. Do you feel the truth in this message? If you do, let it be known. Comment below. I choose inner clarity over projection. 2. Signs you've become a mirror. People avoid your eyes, not because you're threatening, but because they sense something in you they can't quite explain. It's not fear, it's recognition. A part of them sees the truth in you and realizes it can no longer hide. That's the silent power of your aura. You've become a mirror, and mirrors reveal everything. You don't just walk into a room, you shift the frequency. Without saying a word, your presence awakens what others have spent years suppressing. That's why the energy changes when you arrive. Some people open up like they've known you forever. Others shrink back or disappear entirely. It's not about you being too much. It's about your energy being too honest. They call you intense, serious, or overwhelming because they feel seen. Your silence is louder than their noise. Your stillness disrupts their chaos. And your light? It exposes the shadows they've worked hard to deny. This isn't about being liked. It's about resonance. You don't entertain shallow spaces because your soul no longer fits into small talk or surface-level masks. You've grown into something deeper, something clearer. And in that clarity, you reflect the truth back to people who may not be ready for it. When you become the mirror, you stop seeking validation. You stop bending to be digestible. You stop dimming your frequency just to make others comfortable. Instead, you become the one who triggers awakening. Your aura becomes an invitation for others to meet themselves raw, unfiltered, and unmasked. That's why conversations with you are rarely casual. People either confess their hearts or vanish. There's no middle ground when your soul speaks louder than your words. You were never meant to be neutral. Your energy isn't soft, it's sacred. The more awakened you become, the more you'll notice this pattern. You'll begin to understand that being misunderstood is often proof that you're living in alignment. It's not rejection, it's spiritual contrast. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you. Some are meant to glance, reflect, and move on. And you're meant to keep glowing, not arrogantly, but unshakably. Because your spiritual awakening is not just a personal transformation, it's an energetic disruption. You become the light in the room that forces people to either open their eyes or walk away. And either outcome is a gift. Your aura isn't just powerful, it's prophetic. It speaks to what others have forgotten. It awakens what's been buried. It reminds people of who they were before the world taught them to forget. That's why you don't fit in. That's why you've outgrown the need to belong. Because you were never meant to blend. You were born to reflect. If you've ever felt like your presence reveals more than your words, comment below. I am the mirror of truth. Let the world know you're done dimming your light. 3. The emotional toll of carrying light. Carrying this kind of light is a weight most people will never understand. It's not just about being seen, it's about being felt in a way that unsettles others. You've probably spent years trying to soften your energy, trying to be easier to be around, hoping that if you just made yourself a little smaller, a little quieter, you'd finally feel accepted. But every time you did that, it wasn't safe. You found it was disconnected. Disconnection from your truth, from your power, from the fire in your soul that was never meant to be hidden. Your presence disrupts not because it is chaotic, but because it is pure. Because it vibrates at a frequency that exposes illusions. And illusions don't die quietly. The healing you bring doesn't arrive like a gentle breeze. It comes like a wildfire. Because before peace can settle, the lies have to burn. And for those who aren't ready to see themselves, your light feels like judgment. But it's not. It's simply the truth. And truth is uncomfortable when you've spent your life avoiding it. Carl Jung spoke about the unconscious as the part of us that we reject, suppress, or deny. When your aura is strong, you don't even need to speak to reveal what's hidden in others. Your energy activates. It mirrors. It brings what's buried to the surface. And in doing so, you unknowingly become the reflection people run from the mirror they aren't ready to face. But that's not your fault. That's your gift. The stronger your light becomes, the more it illuminates. And what it illuminates isn't just beauty. It's wounds, shadows, lies, and masks. You've likely noticed it already. The way some people tense when you enter a room. How conversations suddenly shift, where silence falls like a curtain. You've seen the subtle envy, the fear masked as criticism, the discomfort masked as distance. And maybe it's made you question yourself again. Am I doing something wrong? Am I too much? Number. You're just too real for a world still addicted to pretending. There's a kind of loneliness that comes with this path. The kind where you're surrounded by people but still feel unseen. The kind where your wisdom is misunderstood, your compassion mistaken for intensity, and your silence mistaken for arrogance. But in truth, you're just carrying something they don't yet have the capacity to hold. This is not a weakness. This is what Carl Jung would call individuation, the process of becoming your true self by integrating all parts of you, light and shadow, clarity and pain. And when you begin to walk that path, your aura changes. It stops adapting. It starts commanding. You no longer seek validation because your spirit knows who it is. So when others react strangely to your presence, when they withdraw or project, don't internalize it. Recognize what's really happening. Your energy is activating their subconscious. You're not the storm. They're just not used to clear skies. And the more you try to make yourself palatable, the more you betray the very light you were given to carry. Let them squint. Let them retreat. You were never meant to be dimmed. You were meant to shine, even when it burns. Because someone out there is waiting for your fire to remind them of their own. If you're done dimming your light just to make others comfortable, don't hesitate like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your truth in the comments below. Let's rise together and carry this light with courage. 4. Why most people aren't ready for you. Most people don't truly fear you. They fear the reflection you awaken in them. They fear the depth you carry, the silence behind your eyes, the truth you radiate without saying a word. You never chose to be the mirror. You never asked to be the one who reflects what others avoid. But your spiritual awakening, your shadow work, your quiet hours of healing and self-confrontation, those things made you into it. You became a living mirror, not by force, but through alignment. You don't shine from ego. Your light is not loud or boastful. It comes from a place of inner order and real alignment. The kind born of suffering and surrender exposes everything around it. That's why people flinch when you walk in. They feel it not because you're wrong, but because they're still wearing masks. You became a light that demands honesty, a presence that calls for emotional nakedness. And for most, that's too much. Carl Jung once said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's what your aura does. It doesn't just enter the room, it activates something. It disrupts comfort zones. It surfaces emotions people worked hard to bury. And the more whole you become, the more others feel fractured in your presence. It's not because you are judgmental, but because your energy is truthful. And truth doesn't need to speak, it resonates. People misunderstand you. They say you're too intense, too sensitive, too different. But they're only projecting. What they label as too much is actually their inability to sit with their own emotional weight. You remind them of everything they haven't dealt with. You bring presence into spaces dominated by performance. And in a world addicted to shallow, that presence feels like confrontation. You can't fake smiles anymore. You can't engage in surface-level talk. You no longer participate in conversations that drain your soul. Your energy has standards now, not out of pride, but out of sacred necessity. Spiritual wisdom teaches us that when you truly awaken, your energy becomes your boundary. You no longer have to say much. Your aura speaks on your behalf. It says, "I've been through fire, and I've chosen the truth." And when people sense that, they either lean in or walk away. But that's not your concern. Your only task is to keep walking, keep healing, keep honoring the frequency you've earned. Because the truth is, your light will never be too much for the right people. It will be medicine for those who are ready. It will be a mirror, yes, but one they're finally strong enough to look into. You are not here to be digestible. You are here to be real. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to reflect what's possible. And in that reflection lies the power to awaken not just others, but the world. Have you ever been told you're too much just for being real? If so, share your story in the comments so others know they're not alone. If not, comment, "I'm ready to be the mirror, to claim your power, and walk this path of truth together." 5. You are not alone in this path. It may feel like no one understands you, like you're speaking a language only your soul knows, walking a road where your footsteps echo with no reply. But this sense of isolation is not a curse. It is a sign that you're awakening. A spiritual awakening isn't always a loud event. Sometimes it begins in the quiet ache of being different, of sensing truths others don't yet see. You feel things deeper. You notice what others overlook. Your presence alone shifts energy. And while that may unsettle some, it's because your light reveals what they've buried. As you grow more aligned with your inner truth, you begin to radiate a frequency that no longer fits with the surface-level connections you once tolerated. Old relationships feel forced. Small talk feels hollow. You're not trying to be better than anyone. You're simply becoming real. And in becoming real, you lose what is false. This is not loneliness. This is purification. You are shedding layers that were never truly you. But here's what you must remember. There are others like you. Souls who've walked through fire and come out clearer. Quiet warriors of truth. Carriers of clarity. People who feel like home, not because they agree with everything you say, but because they recognize the language of your spirit. You may not have met them yet, but they are real. And the more you live your truth out loud, the more you become a beacon to them. You don't have to search desperately for them. You only need to keep showing up as your authentic self. Energy is louder than words. Your aura speaks before your mouth opens. It tells the world, I've healed. I've awakened. I remember who I am. And those who are ready to remember too will feel it. That's the beauty of spiritual awakening. It strips away the need for performance and invites true connection. The right people will not be afraid of your light. They won't ask you to tone it down. They won't label you as too much. Instead, they will meet you with the calm knowing of someone who has seen the storm and survived. They will sit with your silence and feel understood. They will read your energy like a familiar book. These are your soul kin, your tribe. They may be few, but they are sacred. So let your journey refine you, not define you. Let it be the path that leads you home, not to a place, but to a people. And know that every step you take in truth is a call, a signal to those who are meant to walk beside you. Keep going. They are already on their way. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom that reminds you you're not walking this path alone. Like, share, and comment. I am ready to find my tribe. If you feel the call, because your light is already leading the way. 6. This is not a burden. It's your assignment. You were not sent here to be easy to digest. You were sent here to awaken something sacred in a world that has grown numb to truth. You are not here to entertain comfort, but to stir transformation. Your energy isn't chaotic, it's catalytic. You came to shake souls awake, not to help them sleep better in their illusions. And that's why your presence often feels like a spotlight in a room full of shadows. Because when you walk in, people don't just see you, they see themselves, or at least the parts they've been trying to avoid. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Your aura makes the unconscious conscious. It doesn't flatter the ego, it reveals the truth. You're not here to reflect perfection. You're here to mirror potential, the raw, aching, beautiful parts of others that they've hidden even from themselves. That's why your presence is misunderstood. It's not that you're too much, it's that you're too real. And in a society that teaches people to polish their masks more than they heal their wounds, being real is revolutionary. You make people uncomfortable, not because you're wrong, but because you're right in a way that speaks directly to their disowned truth. Your silence unsettles those who rely on noise to distract themselves. Your kindness reveals the harshness in those who've normalized cruelty. Your clarity makes the fog around others more apparent. That's the price of authenticity. But it's also the power of it. There's a woman who used to tell her truth softly, but each time she did, the room would fall quiet. Not out of admiration, but resistance. She began to doubt herself, until she realized the silence wasn't rejection, it was recognition. Her light spoke a language their shadows understood and feared. She wasn't exposing them. She was revealing what they already knew and couldn't ignore any longer. Carl Jung didn't call it aura, but he spoke of presence, the unconscious field of energy we carry. And yours is strong, because you've done the inner work. You've sat with pain. You've faced the mirror. You've dared to be awake while others were dreaming. And that spiritual wisdom is etched into your energy now. It radiates before you speak. It lingers after you leave. People don't always know how to name what you carry, but they feel it. And those who aren't ready to meet themselves will retreat from you. That is not your failure. That is your sign. You weren't meant to be everyone's comfort. You were meant to be someone's calling, someone's catalyst, someone's wake-up call. So when the world tries to convince you to shrink, to soften your edges, to speak less truth, remember this: your aura is not too much. It's exactly what it needs to be. You're not a burden. You're an answer. You're not noise. You're a frequency. And your existence isn't a mistake. It's a message. If this message speaks to your soul, say it out loud. This is not a burden. This is my divine assignment. I accept it with courage and clarity. And if you feel it, like, subscribe, and share this with someone who carries light too. 7. What Carl Jung would say to you today. Jung would say that the journey of individuation, the path to becoming whole, is not a comfortable one. It strips away illusions, demands solitude, and calls for the kind of courage most people avoid their whole lives. But for those who walk it, it awakens a power that can't be faked or hidden. Your aura becomes sharper, clearer, and more alive. It doesn't whisper. It speaks truth in a world addicted to denial. And that alone is enough to unsettle the people around you. The moment your energy enters a space, something shifts. Not because you try to be noticed, but because your very presence mirrors back what others don't want to face in themselves. That's what Jung meant when he said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your aura doesn't just shine, it exposes. It reflects everything others are still trying to suppress. And that reflection? It's powerful. It's spiritual wisdom in motion. You're not misunderstood because you're broken. You're misunderstood because you're awake. And the world, still half asleep, can't process someone who doesn't play by the rules of self-abandonment. Most people have spent their whole lives building walls around their pain. But you walked through the fire, embraced your shadow, and came out with light in your eyes and truth in your bones. That kind of presence cannot be ignored, and it shouldn't be. When someone is triggered by you, it's not really about you. It's what you activate within them. Your aura speaks before you do. It says, "Here is someone who cannot be manipulated. Here is someone who sees too clearly." And for those who live behind masks, that's terrifying. You become a mirror they didn't ask for, but now can't escape. The stronger your energy becomes, the less room there is for pretense. And so, some will drift away. But don't mistake their discomfort as rejection. It's your authenticity doing what it's meant to do. It takes strength to carry that kind of energy. And it takes discipline to not shrink it for the comfort of others. You weren't made to fit in. You were made to wake people up. And even when they don't say it, even when they pull away, your reflection has already started something deep within them. That's the invisible work your soul does quietly, unshakably, without apology. So if you feel too intense, too aware, too sensitive, or simply too different, remember, you are not too much. You are simply too awake for those still sleeping. Let them sleep. Your job is not too dim. Your job is to stand tall and reflect. Say it with me now. I am the mirror. I reflect truth. I no longer apologize for my energy. Thank you for walking this journey of insight and reflection with us. Remember, if your presence feels like too much for others, it's often because your light is revealing what they haven't faced within themselves. As Carl Jung reminded us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. So keep shining unapologetically, courageously, and truthfully. If this message spoke to your soul, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom for more content that awakens, empowers, and inspires. And be sure to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of clarity on your path.